and welcome to our webinar today. Today, the topic of our webinar is World of Fintechs. We'll discuss this important topic with our panelists and how their world is like, how they're working with financial institutions, and how they are mutually benefiting each other, and the challenge they're facing. We'll discuss the future SME fintechs and the current situation post of COVID-19. As you know, the entire world is living really a strange time. Businesses are living in the new situations and are facing new challenges. But it's also a moment in the history in which many challenges can turn out to be opportunities, right? And as usual, opportunities in when the right time meet the right place and the right set of skills and knowledge. So we in National Bank of Fujairah, we are convinced that as a bank, acting as an enabler is the best role that we could have now. And NBF today would wish to give its contribution in enabling new knowledge in business community, the kind of knowledge that could become the right asset for taking up new unique opportunity of this particular moment in the market. That's why we're here today. Today, NBF will share some knowledge about, again, fintech industry and how this specific segment and financial market could help the entire industry to improve the online financial services. More specifically, though, this webinar will cover the topics like what are the fintechs and kind of disruption they are bringing in the market. That is what is the currently trending in the fintechs world? What are the main challenges they are facing, and how is the situation post-COVID? Okay, we'll discuss this topic with strong panelists, Mr. Aditya, Mr. Jegerson, and Hanifa. And I give you guys the few seconds for you themselves to introduce yourself. Please do it. Aditya, you want to start?
Yes, sure. Hi, thanks, David. Hi, everyone. My name is Aditya, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of BankBuddy.ai, an artificial intelligence fintech based out of DIFC in Dubai, present in around 13 countries today, working with large banks and financial organizations like NBF. Yep.
Wow. Thank you, Aditya. Jegerson?
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Very nice to be here. My name is Jahanzeb Awan. I'm the founder and CEO of Azaka. Azaka is a RegTech compliance platform that covers financial services across the entire spectrum, from banks to the very small fintechs, and we're very excited to be here and share our thoughts.
Okay. I think that I don't know if Hanifa has been a second opportunity to join us because he has some problem with the audio and video. Hanifa is another strong participant in the market of fintechs. Hanifa, can you hear us? She has still some issues.
No.
Yes, Hanifa?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Hi.
perfect. Hi.
Tell us a few seconds about you, Hanifa. Introduce yourself. Hanifa? Hello? Can you hear us? Hello, Hanifa? No, we still have some few problem. I will proceed with give you just Hanifa. Still breaking. Hoping that during the webinar we'll fix the problem for the audio. I will just to give you some guidelines for the webinar before starting. Please keep your microphone on mute when you are not talking, please. You may type your question in the chat option you have on the right, or you can ask directly the question in the question answer section that we have at the end of the webinar. The webinar will take 40 minutes for the discussion, interaction with the panel, and 10 minutes at the end of question answer session. And the webinar will be recorded, and you will have the opportunity to watch the webinar later, and we'll post all the information in our platform, National Bank of Fujairah platform. I would like to give you setting the ground of this important topic, talking about the fintechs, right? Just to define what is the fintechs. Let me say that the fintech is starting from the definition from financial, the conjunction of the term financial and technology, right? And this is a concept that is coming to us, is starting to be a massive concept from a few years ago, but actually is a concept that is starting to be is quite old in the market, in the financial industry, because we can start talk about the fintechs 1.0 in a different era, fintech 2.0, fintech 3.0, right? The fintech 1.0, it was at the beginning until 1960, where essentially it was the first era of the financial globalization, right? Which include the first interconnection by the single continent with the transatlantic cable, for example. And when from the beginning, 1960, the first diners as a credit card and the first American Express faced the market, right? That is the first era of fintech. The second era, the 2.0, from 1960 to around 2008, is about banks. When the banks are starting to introduce in the market ATMs, for example, we're starting to this first establishing in the 70s of NASDAQ, and so forth. And until the first part of this era, from 2000, where the banks are starting to really interact directly with the customers, with kind of channels, digital channels, and they are starting also to change the digitalize the internal processes, right? And then the third era, when now everyone start to really know what is fintechs, is after the crisis, the financial crisis 2008, and this kind of era, the last era, is characterized by the main topic is the startup, fintech startup, right? Where we have Apple Pay, we have Samsung Pay. That's kind of giants that started to really bring specific innovation in the market. Now, in the current scenario, as technology is becoming really having even more central in the finance industry, we tend to consider banks and fintech startups are opposing forces, right? But fighting for their share of the market. But we know this is not like that. I think at this point, Maestha, if you can support me, please, I would like to share a question to all the panelists and both the participants to try to understand their view about the fintechs. Specifically, do you think that the fintechs are threat for financial institution? Fintechs and financial institution complement each other, or fintechs and financial institution cannot work together as they are competitor, right? Can you show the pool, Meta? Okay, we are. I give you some time for give us the results, the answer, please. You should have on your screen on the right the question. You can click on the question that you choose and submit. In the meanwhile, just to try to anticipate the potential feedback that we have from the participant, Aditya, what do you think about this kind of question? What do you think the fintechs are? Much more on the threatening for the financial institution, someone that can work with banks, or cannot definitely work together? What do you think?
Well, I think having been part of FinTech 2.0 and 3.0, as you defined, having worked in FinTech for the last 20 years, I can clearly see that the point B, where we complement each other, is the best choice. And it's proven time and again that the kind of a regulatory compliance that is required, the kind of capital that is required, and the wherewithal to manage the operations of a bank can only be done by somebody who's a large organization like a bank. And unless a startup is very, 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 very well capitalized. So at this point, a startup brings in the agility, brings in the customer focus. And maybe fintech is a state of mind. It's not necessarily finance or technology. And that state of mind today is pointing towards being customer centric. So it's a perfect complement to banks today.
Completely agree. Completely agree. And Joseph, do you have some thought about it?
Yes, absolutely. Again, to Aditya's point, when at the end of 2.0, there was a lot of friction between the banks and the fintechs, and even the fintechs were initially competing with the banks, and banks thought that they have a lot more competition. And as the relationship matured, everybody has realized that there are certain aspects that each party does well or is set up to do well. And then there are aspects that that either party cannot do well. So, just to give you an example, the Citibank, if you were to deploy a solution in Citibank, the deployment cycle is about 2 years from beginning to end. And obviously, if that was how Citibank continued to operate, it would be very difficult for them to compete with a lot of new products and some agile fintechs coming in. So as you have seen, lots of banks have started their own hubs to house their fintech ecosystem completely out of the typical banking setup to provide the agility that Aditya mentioned. So, I think everybody's coming to a point where, yes, complementation is appropriate, but I do see as fintechs grow in size and scale and generate sufficient capital for themselves, the equation is going to go from competition to collaboration to potentially back to competition.
I agree. And looking now on the results of the pool, the majority of the participants says that they are for complement the banks, right? And but I would like to be curious on how they can complement the banks. Anifa, do you have a thought on that? Anifa, can you hear us? We cannot hear you. Unfortunately, we cannot hear you. Still, we cannot hear you. I'm sorry, we cannot hear you. Nothing at all. Hoping that Anifa will fix soon the problem so that can give us her feedbacks on there. We can go with the second pool that is around which kind of disruption fintechs they are bringing to the market. Is much more on that technology side, kind of disruption, or in terms of user experience, or is a general innovation that the banks are not able to bring to the market? Please, Metha. Okay, we have the pool here in the right side of the screen. Please give us your feedbacks and submit. In the meanwhile, I would like to know, before looking to the results, the final results, Aditya, what do you think about the kind of disruption that we can see nowadays that coming from fintechs? What do you think? Which kind of disruption we are looking now?
Well, actually, there is I think we're at the cusp of another revolution of fintech 4.0. But in 3.0, what we have seen till now is primarily more towards innovation and access. But while we are moving away from that, it is typical distribution which is going to change. And COVID has changed that significantly as well, where the distribution or the consumption of financial services is changing. And that is where the fintechs are going to disrupt more in terms of bringing in new bundled products, bringing in ecosystem together to have those lifestyle experiences based on data and hyper-personalization. So it will be a combination of innovation, technology, and the financial service. and then consuming these services from the best placed banks, plus open banking coming in to cause this disruption going forward as well, where it'll be an open platform akin to what happened in telecom industry when number portability came in, where there's a producer now, and then there are a distribution channel, and then there are consumers who can directly go to the producer or the distribution channel. So it'll get much more disintegrated.
I agree, totally agree. But Jezeb, I think that, I mean, the point that are being raised by Aditya are very strong, because there are specific technology that are changing a lot the way in which the consumer are interacting with the specific financial services. And I'm just trying to think why a classical bank is not able to introduce this kind of disruption from themselves. I mean, why the bank needs fintechs to do it? What do you think?
Yeah, very, very good question. I think it's the answer there is twofold, right? So, and when you have a day job, it is very hard to get people to focus on new solutions that are going to take away from their day job, because the expectations are that the delivery of the day job is still expected in full. That's one. Secondly, the way the banks are set up, and you know this better than I do, and then I used to work for a couple of large banks, but there is a certain hierarchy of decision making, certain priorities, and it really depends on the leadership as well, in terms of how they embrace. Some banks have done it better, some have done it okay, and some have not done it well. So it's a combination of providing the right incentives and having the right leadership to allow the bank to be able to sort of get on the path of creating their own technology disruption, creating their own innovation, and they have the resources to do it. However, the agility, what you need in a startup to become successful, that is typically the Achilles heel for most established institution, and this goes beyond banking as well. So any institution that has been around for 10, 15, 20 years, there was a policy written 10 years ago, nobody looked at it, but people are still following that policy for some reason, and it takes quite a lot of effort to undo something that has been done previously. So that, I think, is the main reason, and then initiative obviously is another reason. Unless there's a specific P&L impact, it's hard to sell an idea to a financial institution that is judged on a quarterly basis on something that's going to pay dividends 3 years down the line.
Agree. Do you don't think that at the end, both of these kind of players, they are providing services to the same clients, right? Because at the end, the same clients will consume services from the fintechs, and consume services from the bank. I think that this kind of commonality they should push to work together, because the future of the two players are quite different. What do you think about this kind of aspect, this kind of way to see this kind of approach to the market?
Yeah, so I think my view on this is very simple, right? So necessity is the key reason here, because a fintech, in order for a fintech to operate, it needs a bank in the background, right? If there's no bank, there is no fintech. Because at least they have to have some relationship. The money has to go into some bank account somewhere, either for themselves, and you have to convert physical dollars or physical dirhams into virtual currency. So as long as the hierarchy of process, I guess, in terms of how money is distributed through the system remains, both fintechs and banking institutions will have to work together, because one party cannot do it without the other. However, the moment we have, and there has been lots of talks about Google and Apple and others, Alipay and so on, starting their own banks, you will have a significantly different environment, and there will be a paradigm shift where a consumer company which has access to end customers directly will be able to directly, provide those financial services that are currently provided by a traditional bank. So it really is a policy decision at the government level for a lot of countries. And if and when that starts, then you have a potential attrition to banking market share.
Agree. In the meanwhile, I see the Anifa is still with us. Has changed the connection. Anifa, can you hear us? Are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you, finally.
Okay. Apologies for the technical issue.
Don't worry. If you, just to give you a few seconds to introduce yourself.
Yes.
Can you give us some information about you?
Yes, my name is Hanifa Azri. So I work in London and Dubai in Fintech mostly. So we're trying to recreate a new financial system, like an alternative system through something called green blockchain. So it's very different from the financial system per se as it offers today. So it includes a whole system together. So it includes RegTech and also other solutions for the customer.
Wow, exciting, really. This is something that is changing. This is a classical disruption, I think, right?
And I think to bounce back on what was said earlier in relation to the collaboration with financial services, I just wanted to add that to some extent, I think it's necessary, especially for compliance and regulatory matter. But I think for what we are providing, I think it's very separate and very different to the usual financial services that we have today.
Yeah, I think that if you're talking about blockchain, it's you're talking about the distributed, decentralized paradigm that is completely different from the paradigm of the banks, and that is the main difference between that kind of approach, right? I would be curious also on the second pool around the. First of all, all the participants are quite between the complementary approach and for the second pool, user experience and general innovation. And what do you think about the second question around the kind of disruption that the thinkers are bringing to the market?
I think we're bringing innovation, but also hope to customers as well, like a new model of products. And it's not just model of product. I think it's just a new way of thinking. I think through innovation, but I guess I think it's going to be a real game changer in the sense of the remodeling of the society. And are we seeing that with COVID right now, the need of fintech is really essential. So I think, yes, it's innovation for sure.
Right. Wow. That's really, really good. And talking about the challenges, because at the end, from a bank perspective, you guys, the majority, the way in which we see the fintechs nowadays is like a startups. Small teams that are very focused in sustaining their business model and bringing the big value to their customer. In that thing, being the first stage of the life cycle in an SME as a startup, which are the main challenges that you face in bringing your business model in the market? Aditya.
Well, I think the biggest shift or biggest challenge that we see is around the cultural shift that the banks have to go through in terms of working with the fintech, because the speed at which we operate and the speed at which banks operate is always not the same. And it has been experienced multiple times. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, we had also experience like that. But you're talking about different kind of organization, right? And an organization, standard organization, big organization are different policies and different kind of approach. And sometimes the complementarity of this kind of approach is also useful, I think, right?
Exactly. But I think things are changing because if you look at it, the main trend that is everybody is looking at is how to have contactless digital transformation. So it's been moved from lipstick to real use cases. And that's where I think we are finding a lot of middle ground. We went live with the customer in 6 weeks recently, and it was unheard of earlier with transactions and everything. So everybody is kind of fast tracking that compliance, information security, because every bank wants to launch a digital practice or a digital bank. And this is coming from the top. So COVID has actually changed that a lot in the recent times. So we're seeing a lot more traction on that. So I think that's very hopeful. That's a good thing.
I agree. And I recall just something that has been mentioned before regarding the potential area or hub that the banks are using or leveraging for creating new innovation with fintechs, right? And Jihad, what do you think about the challenge that the main challenge fintechs are facing nowadays, but with the fact that with this kind of hubs, maybe this kind of challenge can be mitigated or minimized? What do you think? Jazeb?
Sorry, I was on mute. Apologies. I was talking to myself. So to answer your question, I think, look, at the end of the day, as Aditya said, the movement between a fintech and a consumer of fintech solution, be it a bank or another financial institution, because of the timing differences or the agility differences, a lot of the good fintech startups, which are not very well capitalized, but are going through and managing cash, even if they end up with 10, 15, 20, 30 customers, they have to scale up, get people in, spend the money, raise the money, etc., and try to make everything work. Typically, it's a survival mindset in the beginning and survival environment. And I've seen a few really good fintechs fall by the wayside because it took them too long to either raise VC money or angel money or get money from their contracts that they have executed with financial institutions, right? So the reason why, if you look at Silicon Valley, reason why you have a significant number of innovation, ideas, everything coming through is because the ecosystem allows for that. You can pretty much have an idea and go and raise a couple of $2 million just on the idea if people like the idea. This is unheard of here in the region.
Completely agree.
We have seen VCs, again, not to put down the VCs, but the VC mentality here is what the VC mentality was in Silicon Valley probably when Steve Jobs started Apple, right? So they are lacking. They're about 30 years behind, and it's a followers mentality. If somebody invests in Amazon, then other people invest in Souk and that kind of deal, which does not really help the ecosystem. And again, I think at the end of the day, where banks can come in, like NBF and others, is to really look at ideas that you think have good potential, and then funding those ideas and taking an equity stake in them and giving them the environment and the ecosystem that the VCs currently cannot provide. If that happens, you have equity in a company that can potentially go public, good return on capital investment, good agility, a product that if you can really deliver on that, you have a massive leg up on the competition. So sorry, a long answer to a short question. Apologies.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and this is something that is part of the so-called open innovation, right? The new approach in which one of the approach to innovate in the big organization try to have external cross-fertilization with external team. And when you mention about the one of the challenge that these external teams, the fintechs, are facing in terms of capitalization, in my view, I lived in my previous lives the fintechs also, it's something that sharpen your sense for really try to create the best products and improve the probability for having success in the market. This is something that when you don't live this kind of environment where each single day you have to spend for creating value for your customer, when you need to really be much more efficient, it is something that gives you much more customer oriented, you know what I mean? And typically on the big organization, that kind of sense is not always present. Of course, there are digital banks, there are banks very focused in the customer. They are really doing well in that sense. But sometimes that kind of, specifically in a big organization, is missed, right? And so this challenge that you mentioned sometimes can be turned in an opportunity, right? Of course, if you are living in an ecosystem where you are well supported in terms of equity, in terms of investment, is better, right? But I think there is also an opportunity. Anifa, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
What do you think about the challenge, given that you are living between UK here in a cross countries startup? What do you think? Which are the main challenges?
Yeah, I think the main challenge I see, as you say, is like worldwide. It's very different. Like the knowledge of fintech and new technology, very different from like in the UK or the Middle East. What people know about fintech, cryptocurrency, and blockchain. I think that people are not all like familiar with what it is, even if like we're doing a lot of work right now about it. People are not sure what it is, you know, and they're not all confident about it, and also the cohesion between fintechs as well. I think that we most all have the same goal on being more human, on trying to do the best for the society and for the planet as a whole. But we need to have more cohesion together so that we can be one strong voice. And that's what I find today. And again, I think on the regulatory and compliance matter, I think we need like further security because blockchain is not regulated and can't be. So I think we need, and I think what we work on, find like a system which will provide some reassurance and security to the customer.
I agree. You mentioned one of the main topic around the trust that the consumer can have towards fintechs. And you mentioned that sometimes it's something that still need to work on that, right? But if I recall, there are a lot of survey that coming from US that things are changing thanks to the big giants that are coming to the market, right? Like Amazon, like Apple, doing financial services, right? Providing financial services, and specifically part of the consumers are starting to really looking very well. They come in the market, this kind of giants, and things are changing, right? Of course, it's a matter of time because the information will be available in the market and creating trust, taking time. But I think that things will change, right, Anifa?
Yes, no, I fully agree. I think it's looking better and better, and especially with what's happening in the world. I mean, we see that it's the way forward anyway. And as you rightly said, I think it's good to have this fintech movement right now because we're just like helping to rebuild a better society.
I agree. I really agree. Anifa, and given that you are working on cryptocurrency and blockchain and this kind of technology, do you think that, I'm pretty curious on that, do you think that the consumer will change the way in which will interact with financial services in future, choosing a bit more a decentralized approach instead of the bank, or what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think because the approach that we are taking is very different. So it's more like on, rather than you get your paycheck and then you put your money in your account, what we're offering is more like on a charitable purpose. So just to make sure that your money is going to contribute to the well-being of the planet. And we have seen recently that there are lots of surveys showing that people want to be more participative of the well-being of the planet. So therefore, I think that like it's alternative right now, but I think in the long run, it will take over what we have right now.
Agree. Totally agree.
And I think with the help of like banks who are really conscious about doing the right thing and putting some moral into their system, if I may say so. Yeah,
I completely agree. And I think that that will be the approach. In my view, we are in the market from a lot of years. I'm not thinking that will be 100% one way and 0% on other. There will be always, it's like the payment industry, right? When we introduced the prepaid cards or plastic card, everyone was thinking that the next payments, electronic payments will completely eliminate the cash. I think that in the long run, both approach will still be in the market with different kind of approach, but we'll see. I'm curious on another point, Aditya. You mentioned previously, because I mentioned the main era about fintechs 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 that are commonly and understand from the majority of the observer. But you mentioned the fintechs 4.0, right? If I recall it.
Yes.
Is it something connected with the COVID times that we are living, or no?
Actually, it's a combination of multiple things coming together. It's a culmination of availability of technology, which is artificial intelligence and the computing power available to do the kind of processing that we can do today, which was not there earlier. So the timing of that, plus of course COVID coming in, and the models where the financial services is already getting disintermediated in terms of consumer banking, at least, with the Ubers and the Amazons launching their own wallets. So the money is already moving into those kind of large big tech kind of organizations. And we had a wave of, I remember you talking about 2008. Before that, we had a wave in Europe, particularly around virtual banks. I remember Unicredito launched a virtual bank in 2007. And I mean, so it's nothing new, but the shift this time is from moving from operational efficiency to customer centricity. Earlier, we were doing it more for reducing costs or bringing in streamlined operations. But today, we're talking about making everything customer centric and partnering. That's why we're having this call of partnering with the ecosystem players, be it food service delivery providers or whatever the consumer wants, and combining the delivery of financial services with the delivery of goods in a manner that it is seamless. So anybody could be providing these services. You could be, as a bank, could be selling cars along with car loans tomorrow, or I could go to a car dealer and get that in. That disintermediation is 4.2.
Right, I got it. But specifically, that is the next part of the, let me call it question. And everyone is aware about the strange time that you're living, right? That is impacting all the aspect of the market and when we are doing things and which we are working, we are living. So the COVID time, how is the situation now with the COVID times in your business model, in your perspective, in your expectation from the market? Did you change something? And if yes, what do you expect from the market, Aditya, and then the others?
Sure. So in terms of, again, we went through COVID-1 and we are in COVID-2 now. So the COVID-1 was that everybody stopped everything. For the first 2 months, the impact was such that everybody stopped everything. The decision stopped. There's complete stillness, and everybody was scared, including us. Is there a survival? being bootstrapped and managing things. What do we do for survival? Then we realize, no, now this is a good opportunity because everybody is looking at digitalization in a serious manner. And now what we are looking at is evolution of new models, where we're talking about everything as a service, and more newer models coming like revenue share, or kind of profit sharing, not just at the point of per transaction basis, but actually saying, here, let's work this out as a new model. I don't want to upfront do a lot of investment or do lot of effort. Can we quickly do something and make sure that we share the revenues quickly? So this partnership and this theme that you're talking about today is much more relevant in COVID 2.0 and going forward.
I agree. Jazeb, what do you think about this kind of COVID time, post-COVID? Aditya has identified two kind of moments: COVID-1, COVID-2, and what do you think about it? What are the expectations? Would you change something?
Yeah, I think. Look, I mean, my experience has been that generally the general public, there's an old saying that a person is smart and people are stupid. I'll leave that for you to decipher. But typically everybody overreacts. When things are going up, everybody overreacts. When things are not very good, everybody overreacts, and that is where the real opportunity is created. If you don't lose your senses, as the old saying that Napoleon has, that a genius is a person who remains calm in extraordinary circumstances. That you can see a lot of things very clearly. So for us, it's very simple. We are in the RegTech space. We have unlimited opportunity here, and what we have built is an inflection point for the front end, which is engaging with the consumers in a way that allows you to comply with regulatory requirements, and then also significantly enhancing the internal mechanics of the compliance function, which has huge costs currently, to quite a place where you turn your compliance function or the regulatory function as not a cost center, but almost a profit center. Right. In a way, which is, when we talk to different financial institutions, they don't really first get it. They ask us questions as to how are you going to do that, and it's a very simple idea. You have lots and lots of data. A bank has lots and lots of data. If you can monetize that data in a compliant fashion, and if you're not and this is where open banking is going to open minds for a lot of people.
Of course.
You can actually use your regulatory framework to really enhance your footprint globally very, very easily with the right partner. And the simple idea and comparison I can give you is, if you look at in the UK or even here, there are some fund management platforms. So you have a platform where a new fund manager comes in, they get the infrastructure in place, they raise a little bit of money, they build a track record, and then they raise more money. And once they get established, they move on their own. So in a banking environment with a RegTech, this is what we allow our clients to do, which is embed in a compliant manner any fintechs and monetize their data. So every customer that you bring in, if you get their consent, they can actually bring revenue from the data that you have if you are not extremely adverse to your sharing of customer data, right? With obviously the customer's consent, which is typically what's happening globally across all industries. So you have a consent and you do that and you monetize, and the synergies are amazing. So I think eventually people will move towards that. And let's see how long it takes us here in the region to get to that.
Completely agree. And I think personally, what we are seeing also in the market, that the best is trying to be adaptable and try to really look at the market in a way that the most flexible as possible, right? That is the moment to be less rigid and try to adapt and to come up with the needs as much as we can for the consumer, right? And Anifa, regarding the COVID times, how you see the situation? Anifa, can you hear us? Hello, Anifa.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I was on mute. Yes, for the COVID situation, so basically, I don't view it as something that's going to be like ending, like most people. I think it's going to be recurring, unfortunately, and I think the worst is yet to come for the financial services as we know it yet. I think that also, as I think one of my the other participants said rightly, it allowed us to reflect, to pause, and see where we are, and trying to be more human, and see. I think it's also a time to see the solutions that are available in the market right now. All the top runner, and that can collaborate with big financial services, because I think financial services are seeing the need for fintech much more now because of the circumstances, and they have to act upon that. So as I said, for COVID, I mean, last year already, we already tried to offer like virtual school in a part of one of our products, but people, our banks, they just didn't see the need for that. And today, it's exactly where we are. So my view is that I think by the end of 2020, it's highly likely that fintech blockchain will be much stronger, and will have its own elaborate system and in competition with the financial services. Because I don't see this COVID situation and something else ending. I think this is the new era for digitalization, and it's going forward.
Agree, totally agree. Thanks, Anifa, for your view. We are just reaching 12. We are becoming the question and answer session. We are going through the question and answer session, and before going there, just to recap the content of the webinar, I would say that the first 3 points. I would say the first one is refining the collaboration with banks. This is one of the topic that we have to try again to refine in the next time. The capitalization is one of the still challenge that the fintechs are facing nowadays, but still depending from the ecosystem. And that point, due to the COVID, the evolution of the new models pushed by COVID, new model in terms of business model, and the adaptation that business model need to have, becoming much more human, and try to push new solution in the market. Now, in the meanwhile that we'll have 10 minutes or less with the question and answer session, we will share a last and very short poll to retrieve some feedbacks from you guys, and about the quality of the webinar. Please feel free to answer to this 4 question, very quick question, so that we can improve next time our webinar. Okay. Do we have some question? I think that we have in the comments something. If I'm not wrong, let me see. Shiba, do we have some question from the participant?
Yes, David. We had some questions, but Jahansib has answered it while we were discussing on other topics.
Okay. What was the question?
The question was, do you foresee big banks joining hands with tech giants like Apple, Google, or Google to create real big fintech with scale and agility? That was the question.
Quickly, Aditya, what do you think?
Well, I think it's going to be more of fintech plus bank play, not the big tech plus bank play, because big tech is actually all pervasive. They're everywhere. They're doing too many things, and they're going to be the biggest competition rather than complementing. So it's the smaller fintechs, and the big tech also, like a colleague has already rightly mentioned, they have the same problem because they're too big. They're the same processes, same issues, while not the 200-year legacy, but they're still now too big to have the same problems and not have that agility that a smaller fintech would have.
Got it. Got it. Jezeb?
Yeah, I think, look, at the end of the day, the wheel has already started turning in Silicon Valley about big tech setting up their own banks. If you remember when PayPal first came out, there was something called an X Bank, which was a digital bank very early in 2000s. And PayPal unfortunately hasn't moved forward.
It was X.com.
Sorry?
It was X.com.
X.com, correct. So I think it's going to happen because, again, if I was Google CEO, why would I finance my acquisitions through a bank when you can have my own bank and cut that piece out? And as you have seen, Facebook, acquiring, paying whatever, a few $1 billion for WhatsApp, if I'm correct there, and then others and so on. So this is going to continue to happen. If people have good ideas and they can execute, and it becomes more important in this region, execution, because you have not that long of a runway because of capital issues here. Execution becomes very important. Then you will have good backers for you, which in itself is not really ideal for the ecosystem. But in US and other areas where there are good capitalizations available for fintechs, you will see a lot of interesting ideas coming through. We're already seeing full sort of blockchain ecosystems coming in where they're trying to bring in different fintechs within a single platform and providing that platform to a financial institution as a plug and play. So all that is happening, but again, the devil's in the detail. It's all about execution.
Of course. Anifa, quickly, do you have some beyond that?
I think that big tech will eventually join together and create something bigger than what we know already.
Agree. Right. Shiba, do you have some other question available? I will take just, we have 3 minutes left. I will take just one and then we go on to the end.
All right, just a second. We have one question on what should fintech consider as they evolve their products? Actually, 2 questions. And what are the barriers to entry for starting a financial service venture?
Aditya, you guys know, right?
Yeah.
This is really something good.
Okay, so I can tell from personal experience because having dealt with banks and started this. So first question, first focus on your information security and compliance before you even go to a bank, and have those things ready because that's the biggest blocker that you will face, and have a clear value proposition in mind of what you're going to deliver, how you're going to deliver, and how you're going to work together. A lot of fintechs that I've seen don't have an idea or don't have a solution in hand to execute quickly, and then they go to the banks, and then it doesn't work. I've been part of Fintech High where NBF supported us, and we had a solution straight away to deploy. So come to that maturity level and then hit the market.
Great. Jezeb?
Yeah, I think, like I said, ideas are dime a dozen. Everybody has an idea. It's all about execution, and execution means you have to either dig into your own pockets, find talent, get connections, build something. It's not easy. That's why a lot of businesses fail. But perseverance is key, and being idealistic is fantastic, and not giving up is the way to go. But you have to also make sure that your idealism is not something beyond your realm of execution capability, right? So small parts that you can execute. Nobody knows how to get somewhere till they get there, but you have to have the small steps that you can do, and then recalibrate as you have to go through the process.
Got it. Anifa? Okay. Anifa? Can you hear us?
Hi. Yeah. So I would say like to surround yourself with like the right team, and then I think everything goes around. I mean, by meeting the right people, and if you, as I say, if you really believe in what you're doing, then there's no reason why it shouldn't work.
Yeah, I actually have one more comment here, which is very important, which is whatever you think the timeline you have to multiply that by 3, particularly for your revenue. So if you think you're going to make money in 6 months, then you won't make money till you hit the 18
That's a good
months.
point.
Plan for
It's right. So don't trust the optimism in your brain when you are doing a P&L. We are doing the business model, the business plan, right?
Yeah. Can I say add something as well in that? I mean, it's just I think the goal really shouldn't be like to make money, just to achieve something. Yeah. But this is my view on it.
That's a good point. Shiba, you were saying something, right?
Yes, we have one more question, and it's how quickly do you think blockchain or cryptocurrency will be adopted by established financial institutions such as banks in the region?
Oh, Anifa, this for you.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think I would say by the end of 2020 that will start. I mean, I view it because I mean the way we proceed, we work with green tokens, so it's different than cryptocurrency. But yes, this is something that's already running. I think the question is more on how we can make it work. And I mean, I view that because of the international circumstances that we have, it's a must have internationally, and it will happen.
Yeah. Got it.
If I may just jump in here.
Please.
I have a slightly different view here. I think from a technology readiness standpoint and the regulatory compliance issues that come with blockchain technology, at least in the region, I think it's you may have a couple of pilots happening soon, but I would be very surprised if it becomes mainstream. It's not mainstream globally yet. I don't think it becomes mainstream here. But there will be lots of good solutions that people can utilize on the blockchain, and we'll see how that goes. But again, there's a lot to be done. The biggest problem here is policy, government policy. So if you look at the U.S. alone, the state of New York is verbally against cryptocurrencies, and lots of different places as well. So it's the education that needs to happen, change of guard that needs to happen at the policymakers. And then once momentum is achieved to some degree, then you will see much faster movement here.
I think Joseph, that is like any other kind of technology will follow the curve of adoption, and all the factors will come together in the right time. I think that is a technology that brings a lot of value in the market, and will take its time to do it, but I think it will happen. That's my personal view. I think that we crossed the time limit, and I would end the session here. It was a very useful session. Thank you really for the insightful section, and I would like to thank you, the panelists, for joining us today and sharing their knowledge with us, and thank you everyone to join the webinar. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoy the session. Thank you all, the participants, and joining again. Keep hooked to our social media page, and we are coming up with more. Please make sure that you check NBF Connect platform for recording of this webinar, and for the upcoming webinars that we will do in the future. We will share with you guys the URL for the platform in a sec in the chat. Thank you all once again for attending the webinar, and have a good weekend to everyone.
Thank you for having us, and all the best.
All the best, guys.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.